Good evening and welcome to Kitchen Conversations. I'm so glad that you're here tonight. And Happy New Year, everybody. Happy New Year. 2022. Wow. I know you're thinking if we were going to make it. We did make it. So welcome to the new year. Welcome to the new you, to new possibilities. So grateful that you're here. So let us get ready to bless and bring in the loving joy that is the truth of who and what we are. As we take this journey and expand our consciousness to open up our hearts, open up our minds, open up infinite possibility. Infinite possibilities to know that equality is something that is here for us all. That we must reach into our consciousness and allow each of us to play a role to bring it forward in this now moment. That there is room for all and there is plenty, no matter what the sex, age, race, color, religion, spirituality. It's there for each of us. And as we bring in this new year, let's bring in new thoughts, new possibilities of what could be. So in this very moment, let us just take a breath and breathe. Knowing that we have said yes to being here at this time because we are ready for a new world, a world that supports and loves all. So breathe that out into the universe, opening your arms wide, knowing that this well-being is constant, consistent, and it is loving. Welcome to the first Kitchen Conversations for 2022. And as we do, we have to do our theme song. My sisters and brothers, 'cause if you do, you will hear the voices that are calling across the years, and they're crying across the ocean, and they're crying across the land, and they will until we understand that none of us are free. None of us are free. None of us are free. If one of us is in chains, none of us are free. Oh, there are people in the dark, 'cause they just can't see the light. If you don't see it's wrong, that says it's right. We got to give to each other, show our brothers that we care. Got to get the message out loud and clear. None of us are free. None of us are free. None of us are free. One of us in chains. None of us are free. And you know, Racial Equality Project from Universal Spirit Center. I have to thank everyone that has been participating in that. Just a little thank you for all that we have done, that you have done. Thank you for the consciousness. Thank you for your time and understanding. Thank you. Thank you, thank you, thank you. None of us are free. None of us are free. None of us are free. If one of us in chains, none of us are free. 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 If one of us is in chains, don't you know we are not free? Hey. Thank you, thank you, thank you. So now I'm going to bring in our beautiful guest who was sent to us via Otis. Thank you, Otis. Please welcome Gail Lovers. Hi, Gail. How you doing?
I'm just wonderful. Thank you.
I want you to get just a little bit closer because I want everybody to hear every word you have to say.
Okay.
So, we are in 2022. Racism is still running rampant. If there was one thing that you wanted to share, one thing that you wanted to tell someone that says they're an ally, that they are in support of breaking this system of racism, what would you say to them?
I think the one thing I would tell them is to share what they have. Share the opportunities that would give other people a chance in life.
Yes.
To open up, to be a lot friendlier. And I think if you look at nature itself, human nature, we are a sharing people, but sometimes we have to be told to share. So I would say open up, give opportunities to others, and share your knowledge with others.
Now that sounds really nice, sounds very cool, but has that been an experience that you've had on your journey?
Yes, ma'am. It
All
has
right.
been.
I love that.
Yes,
Please
ma'am.
tell.
Well, I'm a retired educator,
Okay.
and I have university, city college, high school, and some elementary. And I like that, the surprise moment when they learn something. You know, knowledge is no good if you don't share it.
Yes.
And I'm in the parliamentarian position. I'm a registered parliamentarian, and I teach workshops. And I teach people how to conduct meetings. And they just surprised that the things that go on, they weren't aware that, we were doing that wrong the whole time.
So now let me find out, you're a parliamentarian?
Parliamentarian.
Now, what is it that you do? What is that you do?
Well, not like what some people think.
Okay.
A lot of people were afraid of parliamentarians.
Yes.
They thought they were dictators, take that gavel and bang it down and bang it down. That gavel is not a meat mallet. A parliamentarian is one who sits beside the presiding officers and help them conduct the meeting, predict a productivity, to do it well, to be effective. If there's a bylaw infraction, if there's a motion on the floor, that parliamentarian helps that presiding officer to preside correctly and to be fair with everyone. So that's what I do.
So that's really powerful because on this journey of racism and the system of it, you're a person that could possibly step into a heated situation and help monitor, help de-escalate. Am I correct?
Yes.
In this process of racism, we had a couple of beautiful trials that actually justice, accountability, not justice, but accountability. The George Floyd case, and also just before Christmas, the other officer, Kim, from Minnesota, that killed Deontay Wright, they found her guilty of manslaughter. So we are in this space where there is some things that are starting to wake up. Education is one of those. CRT, critical race theory, that people are losing their minds over. Are you familiar with CRT?
Not quite, no.
Okay. In essence, it's really sharing our history. CRT was it was actually done in law school to see how the system of racism has unfolded. And as a teacher, did you see racism in the educational?
Yes, I did, most definitely. Not only when I was teaching, but when I was growing up.
Okay.
Now, I was in the set of kids when integration came about in the 60s. And I was one of the 6 kids that went to an all-white school of 500. So I saw some of that. But fortunately, they were pretty decent to me because they were told, you can't harm this person.
Wow. And what state was this in?
This is in Virginia.
Oh, wow.
In Virginia. They wanted kids to go to the school to integrate, and they picked out several kids. My mom was against it, but my dad says if she wants to go, let her go. Because I had this thought, if the white people had the best schools and the best books, and they knew more, I want a piece of that.
So you were one of these kids that just liked to learn.
Yes, I'm a professional student. Yes.
That's a different space to be in. And so how many black children were in the school?
There were 6.
6
out of 500 whites.
You guys are all really good friends, right?
No, I really didn't. And when I saw this, I said, "Oh, there he is. There's another black person." I really didn't see them.
Really?
Really, maybe after school, where they were going one way and I was going the other, but no, they didn't put us together. We were totally separate.
And were you bussed in, or did your parents drop you off?
I caught the city bus in, or sometimes my father took me. And it's ironic because there was a black school that was in my neighborhood, and they joked about me going to a backward school. They were going one way, I was going the other way. But that was okay. I wanted to know what the white kids were being taught. I wanted to know what the teachers were teaching them, the new words and the new language. I wanted to know all of that. I was very curious. Considering I'm an introvert, I still want to know what they were learning.
And how do you feel that the teachers responded to you?
Well, it wasn't so much the teachers. I didn't have a problem with them. I had a teacher, Miss Winslow, who was my English teacher. She was great. But I had a counselor who told me that I didn't need to take any math other than basic math, because you just probably be a secretary and some other little thing. But my grandmother was way ahead of her time. She said, don't let anyone define your life for you. So this is when I became a criminal. When I left that counsel's office, the cards, they didn't have anything in the computers.
Right.
She put down the classes she wanted me to take. I was good at art and writing.
You had good penmanship?
Yes. I put 2 more classes onto my card each time. And that's why I finished school 2 years early.
Oh, my. Oh.
And they didn't catch that.
No, they didn't pay attention to you because I'm just speculating that the assumption was that you weren't able to learn at the same pace that the white students could. And so they did not. They didn't care. They had to have you there, but they did not have to be aware of what you were doing.
That first year was only 5 black kids. And of course, they gave you your classes, they put them on a card and told you to take them to the front office. Well, in the meantime, I did a sidetrack and I put the extra classes on there. And I did that for 2.5 years.
Really?
Yes, I got away with it. And they couldn't understand why I was finished with everything.
Were you not concerned or afraid at all?
Well, no, not really. What could they do? Just erase it and take me out of the classes. But I got away with it the first year, so I tried it again the next year. Yeah.
Now, do you have siblings?
Oh my God, do I ever? I had 12 brothers.
Oh, you're the baby girl. No
Not
matter what,
quite.
no matter where you come in, you still baby girl.
I am George's little sister, Jimmy's little sister,
Yes.
grandma's little child.
Yes.
I didn't have a name when I was growing up. I had 12 brothers, and I was the only girl within 21 years. The only girl.
Wow.
We had a large family. I had brothers, sisters after that.
Okay.
But I was the only girl for 21 years. I was daddy's baby.
And so, with your family, did anyone else share your appetite for knowledge?
No, not really. I had a couple of brothers who were saying, well, why do you want to do this? And why do you want to go to school? And why do you want to do this? And I found that you got to get an education. So get your graduate from high school. I did that, and that wasn't enough. And they said, well, you need to get some training or whatever. I did that, 2 or 3 things. My grandmother always told me to be diversified. If you lose a job being a secretary, you don't want to go, don't be a maid. She told me that. She said, go to nursing or something else. She said, learn 2 or 3 trades. And so I diversified. My brothers couldn't see that. I was always doing something, always busy. And so when one thing didn't work out, I went and tried something else.
What is your grandmother's name?
Maddie.
Maddie. What a beautiful spirit.
Maddie.
She was ahead of her time.
Yes, she was.
Because not only black women, but white women as well at that time really weren't considered as part of the workforce. And as she said, black women at that time, maids was I guess that was the goal.
That was the goal. Yeah. That was a job for everyone. Yeah. A housekeeper, maid,
Yes.
that type of cook. Yeah, but she didn't want me to do that. And I never did.
Wow.
I learned a lot from my grandmother. If she had put her thoughts and talents, she would be very wealthy. She came up with the idea to scrape your tongue when you brush your teeth. And they have tongue scrapers now.
They do.
Yeah.
They do.
And she would always tell me, just do it. That Nike sign, just do it. She said, if you don't like it, don't do it anymore. But if you like it, do it twice.
So now, was your grandmother in Virginia as well?
Yes, she
Oh,
was.
how beautiful. Going to school in class with the white students, were you a kid that asked questions, or did you just listen and absorb?
I sat in the front because I didn't want to know what was going on behind me. I didn't want people to be in front of me and I see all of this. I sat in the front. I didn't want to miss anything. I was a true student.
Yes.
Really
Yeah.
was, yes.
Yeah, I don't think I've met many true students in my time. It's a beautiful thing because I can feel and hear your love and appreciation.
I cried graduation, not because of graduation and I was getting out of school. I cried because I'm out of school. I didn't want to finish high school, but I finished early. But I cried graduation.
So making the jump from grade school to high school, were you automatically going to college, or did you take a few side
No, a
roads?
couple of detours. I was a manager of a fabric store. I got my license for dressmaking and tailoring. And at that time, all of the bands, they were wearing all these bright colors, these oranges, neon yellows and all that. I was making suits for them. And because most of the time they had to go to New York or somewhere to get the suits made. But I made suits for them for the bands. And so I was a manager of a fabric store for about 3 or 4 years.
Okay.
Yeah. And that was one thing my grandmother taught me how to sew, and my father taught me how
I
to
love
sew.
Maddie.
Yeah, yeah.
Your grandmother, Grandma Maddie, was she ever a slave?
No, she wasn't. As a matter of fact, she was very offended when I asked her about her parents being slaves. She's just like, we were never slaves. We were never slaves, And I used to do this thing about Native American. I knew this Indian in there, and she didn't want to talk about that. She says, you're female and you're black. Now you put Indian in there also? She said, leave it alone. Leave it alone. I traced my grandmother's family back to Europe, 1765. A lot of Europeans, a lot of whites. And my ancestry DNA, there's a lot of whites I still can't account for. My dad's side of the family is different. But my grandmother, she didn't want to talk about slavery, and she didn't want to talk about the Native American part of it. But they're from Nazareth County. They used to call it Sleepy Hole.
They called it what?
Sleepy Hole Reservation that's in Virginia.
Oh, okay.
And there's a river that goes between it. On the other side is the Nottoway River. Nazamon, what they call Suffolk now. And then there's the other side is called the Nottoway. And there were two separate tribes. And they were so small, the government decided you can't exist alone. This is when they started controlling the Indian tribes. And so they put them together. It's like saying an apple tastes like an orange. You're Native American, you can get together. But my grandmother would not talk a lot about her background. And that's what really got me into doing ancestry. And I do genealogy and family research.
You checked your ancestry?
Oh, yeah.
Really?
I take my mother's side of the family back to Europe, 1765. My dad's side of the family, very rich history. I have a very rich history. I'm related to Nat Turner.
The Nat Turner?
The Nat Turner.
Wow.
And to Dred Scott. His name was not Dred Scott, it was Samuel Blow. My grandfather, great-grandfather, they're Blows, Charlie Blows. And the journalist that is Charlie Blow, that does with the CNN, he's a cousin of mine. So I have a very rich history. Pearl Bailey is in my family.
This is amazing. Maybe 4 years ago, whenever I would perform, let me preface it there first. Whenever I would perform, inevitably, somebody would come up to me and go, "Ooh, you remind me of Pearl Bailey." And I'd be like, what are they talking about? And so 4 or 5 years ago, I woke up one morning, I said, you know what? I'm going to find out what this Pearl Bailey thing is all about. And I decided that I was going to do her life story. So I started researching her.
Born in Newport News, Virginia.
Yes, and I went to her gravesite, I think it was in Pennsylvania. But when I started researching her, I realized what people saw. Because I never thought that we had anything in common. But the thing that I saw was Pearl Bailey's light was so bright. And that her energy when she was on stage was big. And I remember watching her in an interview with Dick Cavett. And she said, "Baby, I am. That's all there is. No labels, no nothing. I am." And I was like, oh my goodness, that spiritual was
in
there.
her time, yes.
In her time,
Yeah.
was huge. And there was a story that she told about when she married her husband, the drummer. His name is escaping me right now, but he's Italian.
The white, yes.
Yeah. And she said, now everybody was doing it, but almost called his name. But we were the only ones that got married to it. Just a fascinating story, and I worked on it for a while and then tried to get the rights from the family, and yeah, they wanted too much money. So there. But I love you, Pearl.
Yeah, she had a hard time when she first married him too, because she had been married before, and her father was a preacher. And of course, preachers' kids, they're kind of wild, whatever. So she was considered kind of wild and all that. But when she did well, and her brother, Bill Bailey, William, they did well. And if you notice the dance that Bill Bailey did, he was one of the first persons that did the moonwalk.
Yes, he was.
Not Michael Jackson.
Yes.
Yeah, not Michael Jackson.
In some documentary showing him actually doing it, and then the person said, hey, this is probably where Michael got it from. But yeah, it was amazing to see. It was in black and white. It was like, what?
Yeah. How about that?
So I just want to, you trace your family ancestry, and you trace your mom's side and your dad's side. What was the big difference you saw between the two?
With my mom's side, it was easy enough to trace, but my mom's side was a smaller family. When I was younger, my dad used to always take me to the country. I hated it. The spiders, the grass, the snakes, the outhouse, I hated it. And I was always, my dad was called Bear. This is Bear little girl, this is baby girl, this is George's little girl, Jimmy's little sister. I never had a name when I was growing up. And so he's always take me there in the country. And my dad drove like he was going to a funeral. He was stopped several times for driving so slow. So it was always like, are we there yet? And so I hated going there because it was only an hour and 15 minutes away from where we lived in Norfolk. But he drove so slow that it almost took 2 hours to get there. But my dad always took me there and introduced my aunts and all this. And I remember the names, and as I got older, the names were coming back to me. And a couple of times I mistook a cousin for an uncle and all this. I got to know my people. I've got to know my people, And when I learned out about the people who were in my family, Nat Turner and Dred Scott, and the Blow plantation, where my great-grandfather came out of.
Now, was that on your dad's side?
On my dad's side.
Oh,
Yeah.
What was the name of the plantation?
Blow. There was Richard Blow, George Blow. They were very wealthy people, and a lot of times they went to the Norfolk community areas where they were for. It used to be one whole big area. Virginia Beach, Norfolk, Newport News, all that was one big area.
Okay.
It was called Southampton County, but they broke it down into a Norfolk Independent, and then there was Suffolk, and there was Chesapeake, and the Virginia Beach, and all that. And where my grandmother's from was called Sleepy Hole, but they changed it to Suffolk. And this is where they had this Indian tribes on each side.
Gotcha.
And on the one side in Suffolk is where the guy OBDC, he was an Italian guy. He was the founder of Planters Peanuts.
What?
Right there. And it's ironic because a lot of the blacks there, the slaves, even when they got out of slavery, they worked in the peanut factory. And I look at all the obituaries and the wedding certificates. I look at everything. So my relatives, the peanut factory, they were shuckers or whatever they were. And a lot of them were from the peanut factory. He was a very wealthy Italian guy. He had a huge plantation.
Wow.
And it's ironic, I talked to my niece, she's a chef. I said, think about that. Your ancestors used to work in these kitchens, cooking for these wealthy people. Now you're working in it and you're in charge of it. You're getting paid for it. I said, turn about fair play. She said, I never thought about it like that.
That's beautiful. That's very powerful. I mean, that's a whole nother show because I did research on all the cooking that blacks did for the plantations and dishes that they created. So, on your mother's side, what did you find there?
Not a lot. On my mother's side, I found that, and I'm doing more research on this because I hit on one thing and there's a branch out here. I said, okay, I'll get to it. And I found something and go out here. I've been researching my mother's people. I remember my great aunt's house. We went to her house and there was this picture of this white woman on the wall. I said, what's this white woman's picture doing on the wall? Remember, that's my grandmother. Like, oh my God. Okay.
Was she completely white or was she?
I thought she was a white woman.
Oh.
She was 99% probably because she looked like a white woman.
Yeah.
And I found out that some of the census, they had mulattoes on there and some of them had white on there. Okay. On my dad's side of the family, there was a lot of Native American side. And, they had this thing with this guy who was in charge of the census, the stats for Virginia for about 30 years. He had the clerks to go back and take mulatto off and put Negro in. So if you see some of the census paper and the writing is deeper where the race is, because he threatened them and he made them go back and take off mulatto. He said there's only two races. They're either black or they're white. You can't be Indian, you can't be Asian or anything else. So you were Negro is what he...
Yeah,
but I found some
than
papers.
white.
Right. I found some papers from my grandfather's. He was considered mulatto. And I had pictures of my great-great-grandmother. She's like, on my dad's side. On my dad's side.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah, my grandfather's mother was full-blooded Cherokee. I have one pic of her. It's powerful. I've played around with the idea of doing my ancestry.
Oh, you should.
This is inspiring to me too, because I think it has a lot to do with even now. I shared some months ago when we started the Racial Equality Project that white people that would show up with picnic baskets when they were hanging blacks, that you have to have that energy in your system as well. And it's on both sides that we're in pain. On both sides that people are in pain and not knowing how to express it. And so I think that's one way that you start to learn more about who you are, your family, how it shows up. That's really beautiful.
Yes.
So
And I found Nat Turner's in my family. And I go to Southampton County all the time, and the clerk who's there, Rick Francis, he's been so very helpful. I've got another cousin who can't stand his guts, but he's been nothing but very helpful for me. Oh, let me get that for you. Oh, you'll pay for that. Let me get this for you. And I've told him I wanted to get some soil where Nat Turner was hanging, because the EJI, the Equal Justice Institute in Alabama, they had the jars, and so I wanted to get where he was hanged. The National Geographic had done some research, and they found exactly where he was. It was called the hanging tree. And the clerk told me, he was a clerk of courts, he said, the fellow bought the tree, bought the house, but it's a new place. The tree is not there anymore, but they still had pictures of it. And so I drove past, no cars there. I said, oh, there's a car there. I'm driving, and somebody on a bicycle behind me, moving faster than I was in the car. I said, let me get out of the way. Well, he went up to the house where I had knocked on the door, and no one answered. I said, okay, I don't want to startle him. So I'll sit here for a minute. I said, excuse me, and I got in the car. I said, I'm doing some research. Oh, he said, oh, Nat Turner. I said, how'd you know? He said, because we had National Geographic out here. They're asking questions. I said, yes. I said, I want to collect some of the soil where this happened. He gave me a whole story. He was not from the area, but he bought the property. His wife wanted to move in a nice, quiet area. They came from somewhere Midwest or North.
Okay.
And he says, it was right here. He said they did the testing of the soil and the whole business.
They did. They tested the soil?
Yes.
And they could tell if there were body parts that were in there. Wow.
Right. He said, this is the tree. This is where the hanger tree was. And it was another tree. He said, this one did not survive. This one kept dying. He doesn't know why. He said, so I cut it down 2 or 3 times, and it's growing back. I said, I want to collect some soil. He said, oh, no problem. I said, oh. He said, how much do you want? I said, well, I really didn't come prepared for it. He said, no problem. He went and got the garden troll.
Yeah.
He said, you want 6 ounces, 12 ounces, 32 ounces? And he started digging up. I said, I don't want you to dig up your yard. He said, look at my yard.
Yeah.
He said, this is my wife's thing.
Yeah.
He said, you can't hurt this yard. And so he gave me a bag of soil.
Wow.
Where Nat Turner was hanged.
Wow.
And I've got it in 3 jars. And I'm waiting. If the museum contacts me back ever, I want to donate it to them.
This is so powerful because in this new year, one of the things that REP is going to present to our congregation, I want to create a field trip, for lack of a better word, to go there, to have our community experience this museum. I think it's so powerful what Equal Justice did there.
In Montgomery.
Yeah.
But you may be disappointed because, they had Oprah Winfrey doing the documentary. And they showed all these jars with the names on them, or
Yeah.
rows and rows and rows. And when I went there, I said, okay, where are they? They only had a couple of rows, 6 feet tall, no, 8 feet, whatever. They're upstairs. I said, oh, what? The public's not allowed upstairs.
Oh.
I said, that was so deceiving. I said, they let Oprah up there. So
Yeah.
you only get to see a part of it, just a part of it.
You know what? I can understand it. Probably trying to really conserve conserve the museum. It's kind of like in Egypt, how so many people were going to the pyramids. After a while, they had
Damages
to.
it. No.
Yeah.
Yes, yeah.
But there's that. There's Selma, which is close. People could go across the bridge. So
I've done that too.
see, I haven't. So I want to bring it to the community that we would do it in the springtime. And this is really powerful. This gives me even more fuel for that.
And you feel it when you're in these areas. You feel it. You really feel it. And when I went to a road trip, we did to several plantations.
Yes.
And they had the slave quarters, the houses and all this. I just wanted to break down and cry.
You feel that?
Yeah.
I was in Wilmington, North Carolina, and was in a plantation slave quarters, and absolutely,
Yes,
it is
it's
powerful.
touching. Yes, it is.
It is. It is very powerful. And I think something like that to share with with the community for a lot of people have never had that experience. And for me, it was really by accident, but not because evidently I was there. But I think we need to have more of that so people understand that this energy is not gone. So they're calling, just like in that song, they're calling us. They're calling us to people, come on, we have to pull
Be
together.
aware,
Yeah.
you have to know where you came from,
You
you
do.
have to know what we went through, to appreciate where we are now.
Yeah,
You
and to
do.
where we can go, can go. So I love that you've done your ancestry. That's really powerful.
I do it for other people too.
Really?
I've done several trips. I've done several journals for families, for the family tree, and I traced their family history. They give me a name, about maybe 15, 20 names, and I expanded out to 250 people.
Oh, my
I've even done
goodness.
presentations, for cousins and relatives in New York, and souvenir journals. And when I do the research for individual people, I said, "How much you want to know?" They said, "Everything." I said, "No. How much do you really want to know?" And when I find out things, I give it to them only. I don't share with anybody else. I found out the cousins are marrying cousins, and a sister married her brother, and
Wow.
just a lot of things like that. And
Yeah.
they said, "Oh, that's why that happened. That's why they didn't want to talk about it. That's why." So a lot of things come out
Yeah.
when you
Yeah.
find an ancestry. And I do prison inmate projects too.
Really?
Yes. My genealogy society in Houston, they were sent some projects, but no one wanted to do it. I said, "I'll do it." They're coming out the wall, the woodwork now. So
That's
I'm
beautiful.
enjoying it. I'm doing it because they can't. They don't, some of them are not allowed to use computers and all
Yes.
that. So,
Right.
and I found out by trial and error, you can't staple, you can't put in binder.
No.
No special notes, no perfume and all this
Yeah.
type of thing,
Yeah.
so. But
Yeah.
it's been really interesting. I've had even the white inmates to contact me. And oh my gosh, I can do a book that thick for them, but I keep it to 40 pages.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
I think that's powerful, and it does it because this is our history. It's not black history, white history.
And
This
we
is
have to tell it.
We have to tell it.
Yes,
You know?
because they would tell it for us and maybe not have it right.
Well, that's what they've been telling. I mean, I've learned more in the work that I'm doing now than I ever learned in grade school, high school, or college. And so, referencing once again, that's what critical race theory is about, that we've got to tell the true history
Yes.
for people to understand what has brought us to this point.
Yes, and if you know history and what was happening at that time, you understand, why did he leave his wife and go here? Well, the jobs were there.
Right.
And maybe they couldn't get back, or he left and he never came back,
Yeah.
Or maybe he got killed or something
Yeah.
happened. It
It
was very
happened.
dangerous for them to travel from one place to the other, even though you're free.
Oh,
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
mean, that's a whole nother thing.
Yes,
But
it
you free after you've been held prisoner for years. It's not just an easy thing for them
That
to let you
mentality
go.
is still there.
Of course it is, and it
Still
has
there.
been there for generations.
Yes.
It's part of that thing. We talked a little bit off camera about young people when they're addressed by a white person looking down at the floor.
Oh, my grandmother, my brother, she would give them a hell of a time.
Yes.
She said, "Why are you looking at your feet? They're not down there. Look them straight in the eye."
Yes.
And she had this thing that if they can't look you straight in the eye, they're lying. My grandmother was something else.
Yeah, she was. Do you mind if I ask, how old was she when she made her transition?
77,
Beautiful,
77.
beautiful.
So I got to spend a lot of time with her.
That's awesome. And so you are now Grandma Maddie to your kids,
Yes,
to your
I am.
grandkids.
Yeah, yeah.
How-
They call me Gram, and Granny. Yeah.
Gram, and Granny.
But I think I'm more outspoken than my grandmother.
Well,
Yeah,
the
I give them
different
wisdom
time.
and all that too, and
Yeah.
they just kind of laugh. No, I said fried green tomatoes. I can say it now. I'm older, grayer, that type of thing. So
Nobody's gonna hit an older
no,
woman
no,
now.
no. This grandma hits back.
No,
I love it.
I myself, I've had friends that have had altercations with the police. I have had altercations with the police. Could you relate to it in any real, seeing George? And at first, I have to say, I was like, yep, they've done it again. It was so just, phew. And I didn't think that anything was going to happen because this was not the first time. And then you see why, I mean, been so many. So I was a little removed in the beginning, thinking that, oh, he's going to get away with it, nothing's going to happen. And I started thinking about friends that have had encounters, I had encounters. Have you had any, or have your family?
Well, I can tell you one situation with a brother, and he was pretty well-to-do. He had 2 or 3 cars, and we were going through a country road. He had a new Cadillac.
Oh.
And we're just cruising along. I always said, whose funeral are we going to? He drove so slow. And all of a sudden, we had lights behind us. And the police officer pulled us over. I said, what'd you do? He said, be quiet. No, I said, what did you do? He said, be quiet. I see your license, registration, new Cadillac. Whose car is this? My brother's, mine. I said, what did he do? He said, shut up. No, he's supposed to tell you what you did. He said, you better shut up. And we're on a country road.
Yeah.
And we talk about
Is
it.
this day or night?
It was daytime.
Okay.
He said, follow me to the police station. I said, that's not right. If you did something, why would you have to follow him to the police station? Why didn't he take you out of the car and arrest you? We got this, oh, well, your car looked like one that was involved in a robbery. I said, that's bull. Mm-hmm. If they thought you were a suspect, they would have taken you out and handcuffed you. And we talk about it later. My brother said, you could have gotten both of us killed. He said, we were on a country road. We could have ended up in the ditch, and no one would have found us for years, just our skeleton. And that made me realize some of the things when I came back from California to Virginia, how different it was. And he would tell the police officer, well, she's from California, she'll know better. And he was trying to shut me up, and I'm just like, you have rights. He need to tell you something, And I just wouldn't shut up.
Yeah.
I just wouldn't shut up. And my brother talks about it now. He said, you could have both of us killed. And I didn't think about it. And another instance, when I came home from California, I was in a building with my sister, and we were getting on the elevator, and the man was getting off. And he almost knocked my sister over. And she was very petite. I said, hey, couldn't you wait for me? He just brushed past. I was knocked over. She said, come on, go. Don't. I said, no, he needs to apologize. And she's dragged me into the elevator, like, shut your mouth, So sometimes I become vocal. I hate bullies, and I'll speak up for someone in a minute before I speak up for myself. But I just don't hold back anymore. I just, I have this thing I tell my grandkids. They think I'm a little off sometimes. I say, I've got gray hair. I've lived a long time. I'm not a facetious person. I'm not malicious. Yeah. I just say what I have to say. I only hold back with kids. And so when someone does something, I just speak my mind. And I know a couple times my grandson said, come on. I said, no, what did she say? I said, what did you say? Say it again. My grandson is really good when we travel, when things happen. No, come on, Grandma, come on. And I don't realize that I just don't take that stuff anymore,
I have to say, I think that's one of the things that we have to do. It's not about being mean, but it is about saying that's unacceptable.
Right.
And California does kind of put us in a little bit of a bubble. A couple of months ago, I went to South Carolina, and I'd been there in years. And I went out for Thursday night football at the bar, having drinks, just having a good time. There was a woman sitting at a table kind of diagonally across from me. And so she was facing me. And she was saying some of the most nastiest things, calling me a monkey. Now, did she say you or a monkey? No. But she's looking at me and said, now they let monkeys in here. And so I knew that if I had said something to this woman, I would be the one going to jail. Because we're in a kind of like a real touristy area, so security is everywhere. And, I've had that experience of security coming, and I'm automatically assumed that I'm wrong.
You're wrong.
Yeah. There's no possibility that this other person could be. And looking at that, because I've not encountered anything like that in San Diego. Orange County, different situation.
Oh, okay.
Orange County. I tried to live in Orange County, and I got out of there quickly.
Is that right?
Yeah.
Well, I drove across country when my family was young. My husband was military, and we stopped to eat. And we just went into the restaurant, didn't think anything of it. And they were looking at us like, okay. And I didn't think anything. I had been away from Virginia for so long. And they came over and asked, what did we want to eat and all, and where you going, whatever. Found he was military family. Oh, okay. So they fed us. We found out that that was not the right place to be, but they were nice to us. About 3/4 of a mile down the road, a big sign, you are in KKK country.
Really?
Oh, my God.
A sign, a billboard?
Big billboard, yes. And we were telling people about it. I said, oh, you stopped where? And they fed you? I said, yeah, they did. Because
How long ago was this?
this was in 70, I want to say 76. 76.
Yeah. I guess it was early 90s. I got offered a gig in Mississippi, in Biloxi, at the resort there. And the group that I was with, I was the only black performer. And so the agent called me maybe about 3 weeks before we're supposed to go. And the agent says to me, well, so excited to have you in the show. It's really great. That resort is so beautiful. You could spend every day there and still not see everything. And first I didn't think anything of it. I was like, oh yeah, I'm looking forward to it. I said, my grandparents are from Mississippi, so I would actually like to go see where they were born. Well, Biloxi has so much to offer. You should probably just stay there.
Oh. That was telling you something. Yeah.
I
okay.
said, what are you saying? Well, I'm saying that, I know everybody else, they can move about freely. You have to be very cautious.
And when was this? What year was this?
This was in the 90s.
Oh, my gosh.
This was in the 90s. And it was one of those moments for me that I was like, I can go there and sing for you, but I cannot go out into the city. And she said, there's just places, Gino, that I can't protect you. There's time of day. You should never be off of that resort at nighttime. And I said, you know what? No, thank you.
In your own country.
In my own country. I was like, no, thank you. And I have to say that I'm very proud. There were 2 other artists that when they found out, they backed out as well. And that kind of just, it happened, and it didn't shift me enough, because living in Southern California, and I can't use that as an excuse, but it is my excuse, that I didn't get into more of a gear to recognize that this is the 90s, and we having this conversation. That I'm a black woman in Mississippi, don't go out after dark, because it's a sundown part of it. And the resort, as beautiful as the pictures are, it is still Mississippi.
But not for you.
Not for me, And so I understand that, going back to your hometown and the divide of people now, do you find that people are more vocal in saying what's on their mind?
Ironically, I found that when I came from Virginia to California, the people in Virginia you knew who they were. You knew who to look out for. But here in California, when I first got here, it's like, oh, take this knife out of my back. They talk to you so sweet and kind and whatever, but take this knife out of my back.
A lot of one of the things about this awakening now is that calling all people to recognize that if you're quiet, you don't say anything, you're participating. If you aren't willing to, in some capacity, recognize that racism is not about, I've finally gotten to this point, it's not about if somebody likes me or not. It's not about changing someone's belief. The system that's running is in play. It's in play constantly. And if you're an ally, all my white brothers and sisters, you have to understand that this system is in play constantly in education, in health, in finances,
Economics, everything.
everything.
Everything. Disparity
Sports,
everywhere.
Everywhere.
Healthcare.
Healthcare. Healthcare. I mean, it's in every facet of our life.
And you have to experience it yourself to see what's going on. I've experienced it at an early age. And even when I was teaching, age was a big difference too. I was somebody's mother, and the young teachers were coming in.
Wow.
And they were bringing in younger teachers. So age is a disparity also.
Wow.
You know? And where you live makes a difference. Where you live makes a difference. And there was a survey that a professor from Stanford University did about fading America. American dream is fading. And they did surveys about people who lived in certain areas, and they moved some of them out to other areas where there were more upward mobility. And they found they did better versus staying in where they were before.
Yes.
And he said, if we all get together and give other people the opportunity, educate them, it will make a difference. It will make a difference.
Well, you know, the power of education, it changes everything. And that education just doesn't stop with the world of knowledge. Educating people now about racism. Sometimes I find myself feeling that maybe it's too much. But I realize, and I'm very proud of our center, Universal Spirit Center, that we have set an intention to be about change and to be able to awaken people to noticing, where am I playing at? How am I participating? What are my thoughts daily? When I see a brown-skinned person, do I think, oh, I better grab my purse? Some years ago, I was in Seattle doing a workshop, and I really applaud this woman because most people would not be this honest. I showed a picture of a young black man, pants sagging, big chain on, and I said, if you saw this young man coming down the street, what would you think? And so everybody's like, oh, he's probably a hip-hop artist, or, you know, all these really polite answers. And this one woman said, I think he's a criminal and a drug dealer. I said, thank you for your honesty. Now, the picture that I showed, this young man was had a master's in philosophy. You know, he was a very learned man.
You can't judge the book by its cover.
You cannot.
Yeah.
But I showed a picture of a white young man, baggy pants, with the little T-shirt on. And she said, I said, would you be afraid of him? She said, no, he looks like my grandson. And I think that's such an honest conversation. And it's the pictures of people of color have been, we are always the criminal.
And the TVs, the movies, they don't help us at all.
You know, we trying, but not a lot of them do not.
And so that's the way they portray us. They may have never met a black person, but they see so much of it on TV.
They do.
And they profile all of us to be the same way.
When one black man does something or a black woman, all black people do it. A mug shot of a black person always shows them in the most disgusting way. They look like a criminal. And even when the news is out on a live story, I feel like they purposely look for the most uneducated person to interview.
Like, oh my gosh, shut her mouth. I said the same thing. They did that on purpose.
Yeah, I feel like, wow.
Because they think they're loud,
Yeah.
ignorant, uneducated, and that's what the media sees all the time. And that's what people see.
That's part of the system. Understand, that's part of the system that constantly keeps affirming your right to feel that way about those people. It's the same thing with sexuality. You know, there are pictures of gay and lesbian, transgender especially black transgender women that are attacked.
Constantly.
Oh, it's an alarming amount, and police brutality that's involved in there as well. I see we have a couple of people with their hands up. Is there a question?
Yes, I have a question. Ms. Lover, is there anything, no matter how small, that you're willing to commit doing to end racism that you're not already doing?
I would tell you that, you can't save the world. You have to take a piece at a time. And I wanted to do so much when I was teaching school, especially the young black men. They didn't have models to live by. And I see this thing that if I live in a Spanish neighborhood that only speaks Spanish, and I lived there for 10 or 15 years, I'm going to learn Spanish.
Yes.
I'm going to learn their ways, their culture, the whole business. But then turn it around the other way. If you put me in a neighborhood where there's low income, they're uneducated, they're loud, they're not working, nothing's going on, I'm going to learn their ways, and this is what I'm going to carry on. So I try to encourage, especially young ladies and young people, to get out of that circle. If your mother only knew welfare, social services, that type of thing, that's what you learn. You think that's a way of life, but it's not. So I try to mentor young ladies every chance I get. I don't throw it in their face. It's when I get to talk to them and I find out what they're all about. Everybody needs a mentor. Everyone needs a life coach. And I could use one too. Tell me what I'm doing wrong, what I can do better. I'm 70 years old, but still I can use a life coach. And so I believe in mentoring people. Whatever they're doing with Toastmasters, my parliamentarian group, I do genealogy work. I love to mentor people and share my knowledge.
That's awesome. I think I'd love to address the fact that there is truth to that no matter who or where you are. If you're in an environment that says this is all you can be, do, or have, it does become a way of consciousness. Mm-hmm. It becomes your way of living. I see we have another question here.
Yes. Ms. Lover, what is one way you think that you could connect with white people who have differing views about race?
I think talking with them, finding out where their mindset is. Because I had one woman, one time I was talking to her, and she mentioned Negro people. Like, who? Negro people? I hadn't heard it in a long time. She said where she lived, there were no black people. She said, oh, you're not called Negroes anymore? I'm like, oh my God, this was 20 years ago. Of course, we go through this transition with color, with black, with Negroes, and a few other things. But I think if I had opportunity to talk to a person who's not aware of the culture of another race, it's time to sit down. And they need to be open about that. Because if you close your mind to it, you're not going to learn anything. It's not going to make a difference if your mind is closed to it. You're going to have to want to have an opportunity to educate yourself about whatever's going on. Whatever situation there is, you don't know what's going on, educate yourself about it. So you need to be open with them. And I would sit down and have a talk, and of course you can't judge them because if this is what their mindset is all about, it's going to still be there. And we said we're not racist, we're not this or whatever. We got a little bit of everything in us. Yeah. And it comes out sometimes at the wrong time. So if we can talk things out, you can be civil about a lot of things. You don't have to agree with that person, but you have to be civil with them. So sitting down and talking with someone of another race, I always make this comment, I can live in your world, but you can't live in mine. So most of the time when I was growing up in business and all that, I was the only black person in the group. And I walk in the room like I owned it. My grandmother used to say, show no fear. My grandmother
She was
right on top of it. Yes, she won 1894. She was right on. She said, show no fear. And my heart just, my knees, show no fear. Paddle like a duck under the water, But if I get the chance to sit down and talk with somebody, I would do it. If I was given the opportunity to go somewhere or do something, I'm the only person with this color skin. And I used to be called chocolate child when I was growing up.
Yes.
Still, I would do it. And sometimes I am the only African American in a room of maybe 500 people, 1,000 people. Doesn't bother me at all. I'm here.
I really love that. I want to thank you, Gail, for coming on, for sharing you, for dropping wonderful pearls of wisdom. So in this close, I will ask you this one last question. For 2022, what is your hope that you can shine a new light on in this world regarding racism?
Again, the opportunity to share my feelings and my thoughts with other people, and that they'll be open enough, and I could educate them, and they could educate me, because I've never lived in their skin, so I don't see what they see. But I can tell them how I lived and how I see things. And I always say, I can live in your world, but you can't live in mine. So the opportunity to speak to people and be open with them and let them know that I don't bite. I may scratch, but I don't bite. Any chance I get. And I tell myself, and I've told a couple people, if an opportunity comes, take it.
Yeah.
You know, you never know where it's going to lead you. Just go ahead and do it.
I love that. And I love, I can live in your world, but you can't live in my world. But so now you have to come live in my world.
Mm-hmm.
Now is the time for us to start living in each other's world. You know, I had this beautiful young woman, Lisa, on, it was several months ago when we were doing a show on transgender, and recognizing that people want equality for themselves, but not for others. And we can't live in a world that, oh, you can have it, but somebody else can't have it because you don't understand who or how they live, or you don't like who or how they live. It doesn't affect you. People living and having equality, it doesn't affect other people in a way that's going to stop you from living your best and highest. Only you can do that. So, Gail, I thank you so much for being here.
Thank you for having me.
And kicking off the new year. And we are kicking off this new year with such love and appreciation for Universal Spirit Center, for all you do constantly. Our community is a global community, and we are committed to reaching out to the world, and we do that through a lot of the tithes and gifts that you give to us. So I want to thank each and every one of you for that, for sharing. This new year, we are absolutely doing Movie Month a little differently, allowing you to watch movies at home. This month, we are doing 12 Years the Slave. So, as we did Movie Month before, you would watch it on your own, and then I think it's on the 17th of January, we will meet on Zoom and discuss it and have a wonderful time. So you have to get your own popcorn and candy and jujus. And then also, our Racial Equality Project this month, I'm very excited about this. The action of the month, we're going to go to the art exhibit that's on Harbor in downtown San Diego to follow along the path on Harbor Street, and it is the exhibit for Martin Luther King. There are many of his quotes and statements. It will end at the, I think it's called the Breaking the Chains, which is by Mel Edwards. an artist here that made this beautiful exhibit, and it is a tribute to Martin Luther King. It is a tribute to slavery, to us awakening. So this is a way for you to participate, to actually get out and see some of the things that are happening here in San Diego. So let us just take this moment right now. We're looking forward to a wonderful new year. And I see my camera just doesn't want to get right. So, so I say thank you for being here. Thank you for always showing up and doing all that you do. We are moving forward, moving upward, and moving onward. Hey, yeah, yeah. When I wake up in the morning, lay my head to rest, I am blessed. I am blessed. I am blessed. I am blessed. Oh, I am blessed. Good night, y'all.